Welcome to N3 Prime Time. I'm Angie Russ, and boy, do we have a jam-packed show for you tonight. First up, Senator Lindsey Graham is sounding the alarm. Could Adam Schiff face legal repercussions if he's held to the same standard as Donald Trump? It's a political double standard smackdown you won't want to miss. Next, Newsmax Greg Kelly claims to have a tape that could spell doom for President Biden and maybe, just maybe, clear the path for Kamala Harris. And folks, the clock is ticking. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan wants answers from the Biden administration, and he wants them now. But wait, there's more. Fulton County DA is racing against time, setting a trial date that could impact the 2024 presidential election. What's really behind this rush to judgment? Plus, Georgia State Senator Colton Moore isn't holding back. He's challenging that indictment against Trump, and he's calling on Governor Kemp to get involved. And don't forget, later in the show, we dive into the comments section where we read your thoughts on these burning issues. And in our Looking at You segment, we highlight someone stirring the pot who you definitely need to know more about. This is N3 Prime Time, and Gary Franchi is here to break it all down. Over to you, Gary.
Good evening, America. Welcome to N3 Prime Time. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into stories that aren't just political maneuvering. They strike at the very heart of our republic. And you should be concerned, very concerned, from Senator Lindsey Graham's warning about the legal jeopardy that Adam Schiff could potentially face to the burning question of media double standards. Why is Newsmax Greg Kelly tape about Biden being met with skepticism when anything against Trump is paraded as gospel? These stories matter because they expose a chasm of inconsistency threatening to erode trust in our justice system and media, which are cornerstones of a free society. Let's talk about House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan demanding answers that could expose cozy relationships at the highest levels of our government. Or Fulton County's District Attorney Fani Willis, who seems to be fast-tracking a political trial against Trump and his allies. These actions could be undermining the very fabric of our republic. You see, folks, if our legal and media systems were an engine, right now it would be leaking oil and running on fumes. And just like a car, when an engine fails, the vehicle's going nowhere fast. And speaking of things going nowhere fast, since the 70s, the U.S. dollar has lost a staggering 85% of its value. Imagine if your car's engine lost 85% of its horsepower. You'd be lucky to get out of the driveway. And with elections around the corner, the government has the power to print more money, which could lead to even more inflation. But you know what withstands inflation? Gold. That's right. So invest with Noble Gold Investments and receive a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. or dial 877-646-5347. Make sure your engine keeps running even when everything else seems to be stalling out. Angie, it's a loaded night ahead. What other stories are you going to unpack on this evening's episode?
I'm tackling some hard truths tonight. Congressman Byron Donalds is literally spelling out what many of us have been feeling. This Biden administration needs a reality check, especially when baby formula is running out and gas prices are soaring. You know I've been there, budgeting every dollar at the grocery store. This matters to families like yours and mine. And can I talk to you about Rachel Maddow for a second? She's crossing lines and fanning flames that just don't need any more fuel. As someone who values getting to the heart of the story, this kind of reporting irks me to no end. Then prepare yourselves to hear a Gold Star father's gut-wrenching words. If that doesn't shake you, I don't know what will. Also on my radar, Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp is finally admitting what many of us have suspected about those voting machines. Hey, we've been asking for transparency, right? And Staten Island, you've caught my eye. You're taking to the streets and saying enough is enough with this secret migrant shelter mess. These stories aren't just headlines. They're about our lives, our values, and the America we want to see. I can't wait to dive in. Gary, what's your first special report?
Tonight we have a story that could blow the lid off one of the most glaring double standards in our justice system. Imagine being a powerful congressman going on national TV time and time again promoting false narratives that target a sitting president, and then having the gall to act as if you're above the law. Senator Lindsey Graham has a dire warning for former House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff. You might want to prepare for a millennium behind bars. That's 1,000 years of concrete and steel, folks. Stick around for the entire story. You won't believe the audacity of this ordeal. And stay with us until the end for a final thought that every freedom-loving American needs to hear. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that's genuinely American. Justice, that is, blind justice. The kind where you're judged by your actions and not your political loyalties. Now I ask you, do we still have that in our country? If Senator Lindsey Graham's recent comments about Adam Schiff are anything to go by, we are in deep, deep trouble. Picture this. Adam Schiff, the man who never missed an opportunity to take to the airwaves to tell you that Donald Trump was a Russian asset, could find himself in hot water. And according to Graham, if the former president could be criminally charged for merely suggesting that people watch a program that questions election integrity, then Schiff might as well get ready for 1,000 years in prison. Let's not mince any words. That's 365,000 days in an orange jumpsuit. Now let's dive into the actual substance here. Donald Trump's in hot water for asking people to watch a TV program. He's not accused of, let's say, selling state secrets or doing something undeniably criminal. No, he suggested that people watch a show. And for this, the high priests of the judicial system are ready to put him in shackles, claiming racketeering. So think about it, folks. Just as I changed my life by losing 80 pounds with the Fat Loss for Life guide, Donald Trump and Lindsey Graham, they're fighting to shed the political double standards weighing down our justice system. This is about transformation, personal for me and societal for them. Are you ready for change? Head over to GarysTraining.com and use the code NNN for a 10% discount. Get your life back on track, just like they're trying to do for America. So what do our friends in the media, particularly in the Washington Post, do? They add fuel to the fire by citing Trump's tweets as evidence of racketeering. The gall, right? If this is how we're using Twitter now, what should we say about Adam Schiff's endless tweets and TV appearances accusing the 45th president of being a Russian puppet? Now here's Schiff in 2018 saying the fake Russia collusion hoax was of a size and scope probably beyond Watergate. Watch.
Well, it is like Watergate in the sense that you had a break-in at the Democratic headquarters, in this case a virtual one, not a physical break-in, and you had a president as part of a cover-up, and here you have a president doing a different kind of cover-up. You have a president peddling these falsehoods, and you have essentially people putting out propaganda like Rudy Giuliani to further that fiction. It is, I think, of a size and scope probably beyond Watergate, just not the Watergate the president is referring to.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, Lindsey Graham isn't just throwing a rhetorical bomb. He's pointing out something severely troubling. Adam Schiff has made baseless claims over and over to anyone who would listen. CNN, MSNBC, they rolled out the red carpet for him. If we applied the same standards to Schiff, shouldn't he too be preparing for a day in court? And let's not forget Stacey Abrams. Remember her? She claimed for years that she was the real governor of Georgia. Abrams is also under investigation for how her organization managed funds, but where are her racketeering charges? And Graham puts it perfectly. If you're a Democrat and you claim that you were cheated, you're golden. But if you're a Republican and you do the same, they're out to lock you up. And here's what's even more astounding. Adam Schiff, despite losing his esteemed House Intelligence Committee seat, continues to find platforms to gripe about perceived injustices while Donald Trump is advised by his lawyers to refrain from holding a press conference. Do you see the irony here? In 2019, even Trump himself called out Schiff, saying he should be forced out of office after the Russia hoax. Watch.
Thoughts on Adam Schiff?
Well, Schiff is a bad guy because he knew he was lying. I mean, he's not a dummy, and he knew he was lying. And for a year and a half, he'd go on and just lie and leak and call up CNN and others and just, I watch him, so sanctimonious, and gets on and says, oh, well, we want to talk about Russia. He knew it was a lie, and he'd get into the back room with his friends in the Democrat Party, and they would laugh like hell at what they were doing. It's a disgrace. And he knew it was a lie. And therefore, in one way, you could say it's a crime what he did, because he was making horrible statements that he knew were false. And frankly, I heard they should force him off the committee or off the committee chair. He should be forced out of office. He is a disgrace to our country.
I agree 100%. So why is Schiff's freedom of speech and propensity for questionable narratives less scrutinized than Donald Trump's was? What are the boundaries? Who sets them? And most importantly, who holds these people accountable? According to the new playbook, if you question election integrity and you're a Republican, you're dangerous. You might as well be a criminal. On the flip side, if you're a Democrat, feel free to claim whatever you like. You'll get airtime and even applause. In such a system, free speech isn't free. It comes with a price tag defined by your political stripe. In the eyes of Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis, a tweet by Donald Trump warrants a racketeering investigation. But if that's the standard, then every preposterous claim Adam Schiff has made should also be scrutinized. Senator Graham suggests that under these skewed rules, Schiff should probably consult his lawyers, maybe even a few historians. Because if he's going down, it will be one for the history books. There we have it, folks, a shocking tale of double standards and political chicanery where the justice system is twisted into a weapon to silence those on one side of the aisle while allowing the other to carry on with their deception. And that, my friends, is not just dangerous, it's catastrophic. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about more than just Adam Schiff or Donald Trump. This is about the soul of our republic, about whether or not we still have a justice system that respects the right to free speech, regardless of political affiliation. Senator Graham's warning to Adam Schiff is a warning to all of us. The legal precedent being set here threatens the very fabric of our republic. If a Republican can be put in jail for simply challenging an election, while a Democrat goes free for far worse offenses, then we have lost the objective rule of law that this nation was founded upon. America, the time to wake up is now. The scales of justice are tipping, and unless we act, they may never right themselves again. In political news, Representative Donalds has fired a new salvo at President Biden. Angie, tell us about this scathing new ad.
Florida's own Congressman Byron Donalds is sounding the alarm on the Biden administration, highlighting a storm of issues: soaring inflation, baby formula shortages, and an unstoppable economy. Donalds is challenging any claim of a historic term for President Biden. He's calling out the crippling policies from overspending during the pandemic to stalled energy projects boosting our gas prices. Add to that the tragic Afghanistan withdrawal and an FBI probe into parents' rights groups. With sinking polls and growing unrest as midterms loom, it seems the public's trust in this administration is dwindling. America, we need and deserve better. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. In a significant development, a Biden doomsday tape is set for public reveal. Gary, what's in this special report?
And now a special report that could redefine the future of this nation. We're diving into a bombshell revelation that even the mainstream media can't ignore. A tape that reportedly exposes incontrovertible evidence of President Biden's corruption will be made public soon, leaving him with two bitter options: drop out of the race or possibly face impeachment. It's so explosive it might make Watergate look like a high school drama. And Kamala Harris could even be sitting in the Oval Office sooner than you think. So stick around, because in this special report you don't want to miss the final thought where we tie it all together. Now let's get right into it. Newsmax host Greg Kelly has dropped a bombshell that could potentially end President Biden's political career. You heard that right. A tape is in circulation among people in the know that exposes incontrovertible evidence of corruption. But let's be real. Are we even surprised? Kelly over at Newsmax claims the tape is so vile, so horrifyingly corrupt, it will soon be released. And this tape, folks, could potentially end Joe Biden's chances for re-election. That's right, you heard it here. Now let's take a look at what this tape might contain. GOP Representative James Comer recently called Joe Biden the least transparent president and claimed he was using pseudonyms to hide the fact that he was working with his son to peddle access to enemies around the world. Let that sink in for a moment. The Vice President of the United States, who is now the President, was selling America short while lining his own pockets. Now listen to this, because it's going to relate directly to the revelations soon to emerge about Joe Biden. Because it's time for a crucial reality check, folks. Do you know what else has been corruptly devalued? You know, the U.S. dollar. It's been sinking just like Biden's credibility since the 70s, and it's lost 85% of its value. The government's answer is print more money, which only inflates the problem. We saw 9% inflation rise the last time they tried this trick. So don't let your wealth corrode like the truth in Washington. Invest in Noble Gold Investments, and they'll even give you a free 24-karat quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com or dial 877-646-5347. That's the only gold company that I trust. Now, if Biden and his administration, they seem to be already worried, as Greg Kelly stated, then they should be. He was apparently aware of this tape and has even taken leisure trips to the beach as if pretending everything is fine. Talk about putting your head in the sand. Kelly also criticized the mainstream media's reluctance to report on Biden's family scandals, and let's not forget, a lot of the allegations against the Bidens have been proven true. Yet mainstream media has been dismissing these claims like they're fairy tales. So what is on the tape? Well, specifics are scant, but we know that it's set to be released between Labor Day and Halloween. That's a time window that could shake the nation's faith in its leader, possibly changing the course of history. And let's not forget Kamala Harris. She's waiting in the wings, folks, and that's scary. Are we really ready for a Kamala Harris presidency? Because that's what we're staring down the barrel of if this tape is as damning as they say it is. What's most nauseating here is the double standard. When Donald Trump was in office, the mainstream media would leap on any chance to belittle him. But here we have Joe Biden, shrouded in corruption, and the media looks the other way. What happened to the press being the fourth estate? A check on power. And now let's talk about Ukraine. Joe Biden's duties as vice president suspiciously overlap with his son Hunter's activities in Ukraine. So much so that even Representative James Comer is demanding the National Archives spill the beans on Biden's records. But let's be honest. Do we really expect any accountability? Biden reportedly threatened to withhold $1 billion in aid to Ukraine unless a prosecutor investigating corruption was fired. Does this sound like the actions of an innocent man? Representative James Comer is pushing for bank records and other evidence that could further expose Biden's corruption. At this point, it's safe to say Democrats will have a come-to-Jesus moment. How much longer can they defend the indefensible? Comer is also requesting over 4,500 emails, that's right, from the National Archives, that reveal how then Vice President Joe Biden used pseudonym accounts, copied Hunter Biden and his associates on official government business related to Ukraine. Watch.
Chairman of the House Oversight Committee is James Comer, and he joins me now. Congressman, why would Biden use pseudonyms? Any idea?
That's a great question. Why would he set up with his family 20 shell companies? Why would they be receiving payments from foreign nationals from Romania, China, Ukraine, and Russia? You know, these are questions that every American should have, and that's what our investigation of Joe Biden's all about.
Have you got access to the unredacted documents from the National Archives showing these pseudonyms?
We have requested the unredacted documents, and it's very important because we believe there may be some redactions as to who was copied on those emails where Joe Biden was using a pseudonym, particularly in the case of Ukrainian policy, Stuart. So this is of the utmost importance to our national security. Not only was Joe Biden using pseudonyms, he was copying his son on some of those emails that pertain to Ukraine. When we had, prior to the pseudonyms becoming public, a transcribed interview with Devin Archer, who was on the board of Burisma, the corrupt Ukrainian energy company, along with the president's son. He testified that the owners of Burisma were squeezing Hunter Biden to call Washington to get help to fire the prosecutor, Shokin, who was investigating Burisma for corruption. So along this same time period, we found a pseudonym where he copied Hunter Biden, and it would lead one to believe that this was Joe Biden's way of copying Hunter Biden to say, okay, send it to the Burisma owners and tell them help is on the way. And 5 days later, Joe Biden flew to Ukraine to begin the process of firing the prosecutor in exchange for American tax dollars in the form of foreign aid.
You have a wealth of information right there. But look, it seems likely, certainly seems possible, that there will be a government shutdown. Would that interfere with your investigations?
Well, I don't think there'll be a government shutdown. Obviously, we're having lots of internal discussions now with respect to how to fund the budget over the next 12 months. I hope that we can agree on some cuts. I hope that we can agree on holding certain bad actors within our federal government accountable. But at the end of the day, that's a decision that it looks like the Republicans are going to have to make as a whole, because we're not getting any help from the Democrats. They want to continue be to spend in oblivion. So, but I'm optimistic there won't be a shutdown. But any type of shutdown would, Stuart, interfere with our investigation. Any excuse the Biden administration can give not to be transparent with the House Oversight Committee, they're going to take that.
Shameful. Isn't it peculiar how these things interconnect? It's like a spider web of deceit, and the spider is sitting in the White House. Joe Biden, as Greg Kelly aptly put, has only two options when this tape surfaces. He will either be ousted from the re-election race, or, if stars align in some bizarre universe, might just manage to cling to his presidency. But let's be clear, his credibility, that's already hit rock bottom. The Democrats now face a come-to-Jesus moment. They can no longer turn a blind eye. They must decide whether they'll continue to defend the indefensible. At what point does the Democrat Party say enough is enough? This tape is not just about Joe Biden, it's about America. It's about the kind of country we want to leave for our children, a country led by a man so corrupt that even his own party can't defend him, or a country that says, no more, we deserve better. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just about a tape or another scandal. This is about the very foundation of our nation, the moral compass that guides us, and the leaders we trust to steer the ship. If this tape is as damaging as insiders suggest, then we need to brace ourselves for an America post-Biden. What kind of nation do we live in if the man sitting in the highest office is riddled with corruption? It means we've not only been lied to, but we've been manipulated, our trust exploited for personal gains. We owe it to ourselves, our children, and future generations to hold our leaders accountable. Anything less would be an abdication of our duty as citizens of this great republic. So when that tape comes out, listen carefully, because it could change the course of American history forever. Turning to the media now, Rachel Maddow's latest episode is causing quite the stir. Angie, what happened?
Rachel Maddow has hit rock bottom. In a recent MSNBC meltdown, she peddled the notion that Donald Trump could suspend future elections. No evidence, no facts, just pure unfiltered hysteria aimed to delegitimize Trump and divide America. She didn't stop there, even hinting that an election loss for her side could spark far-right violence. Sounds like gutter journalism to me. What's alarming? Maddow's scare tactics are backed by a mainstream media that's tossed objectivity out the window. We need news we can trust, not divisive narratives aimed at tearing us apart. Our republic deserves better. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. A strategic move from Representative Jim Jordan could spell trouble for Biden's administration. Gary, what's unfolding in this special report?
And now a tale that you cannot ignore, especially if you've ever questioned the integrity of the Biden administration. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, a name you can't help but respect, has drawn a line in the sand. He's demanding answers straight from the horse's mouth, questioning the integrity of Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigations against none other than President Donald Trump. And folks, the breadcrumbs lead right to the Biden White House. Think there's something fishy? Well, Jim Jordan is the man with the fishing net, and he's getting ready to cast it wide. Don't look away. You don't want to miss our final thought, where we break down the story and why it's more than a whiff of smoke. It's a blazing inferno threatening to engulf the highest office in the land. Tonight, we dive deep into a matter that shouldn't be swept under the rug. Chairman Jim Jordan has written the White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and Attorney General Merrick Garland demanding they account for one significant thing: reports that a staffer from Special Counsel Jack Smith's office repeatedly met Biden White House officials. You heard that right. Smith's office, which should be an island of neutrality, seems to be getting cozy with Team Biden. They're pursuing multiple cases against Donald Trump, folks. Is this fair? A fair probe? Or a witch hunt orchestrated from within? You see, Jim Jordan's put his foot down, as we all should, against what he sees as impropriety at the highest levels of government. With a strongly worded letter to Jeff Zients, White House Chief of Staff, and Attorney General Merrick Garland, he's making his concerns known. He's not just flapping his gums for the sake of political theater. He's going for the jugular. Jim Jordan is essentially calling out what appears to be a cozy and ethically dubious relationship between the Biden White House and Special Counsel Jack Smith. Now let's get into the weeds a bit. Jack Smith's top aide, Jay Bratt, seems to have had several visits to the White House between 2021 and 2023. Now, isn't that interesting? It's like when you see a fox circling the henhouse, you know something's going down, you just can't prove it yet. And we're not talking about casual coffee breaks here. According to Jordan, these aren't just social calls. They're part of a pattern of improper pressure placed on legal representatives connected to President Donald Trump. Does this seem like impartial justice to you? Ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about cutting through the smoke and mirrors in Washington, let's talk about cutting the fat too. Just like we have supplements to help us get rid of excess weight, we need people like Jim Jordan to help our government get rid of its excess baggage, especially the kind that hampers justice. If you're interested in shedding what's unnecessary in your life, check out the supplement that I recommend, which contains CLA to help you burn the fat. Visit trimwithgary.com to find out how you can trim down to truth. And now back to tonight's all-important narrative. So what is Jim Jordan doing about this? Well, he's not letting it slide. No, he is demanding answers. He wants to see all the records related to Bratt's mysterious visits. He's calling for transparency, something this White House often talks about but seldom delivers. Jordan also wants to see any communications between the Department of Justice and the White House that touch on the activities of Special Counsel Jack Smith. And Jim Jordan, he isn't just fishing here, he's hunting. He's hunting for the truth, for integrity, and for justice. The lack of transparency is not only a sign of a broken system, but also a betrayal of every American citizen's trust. And Jordan's not sitting on the sidelines complaining like so many others. He's actually taking action. Here's what former Michigan GOP candidate Tudor Dixon reacted to the reports that Biden staffers met with Special Counsel Jack Smith's aides before Trump's indictment. Watch this.
A scandal manufactured, if you will. Biden staffers reportedly met with Special Counsel Jack Smith's aides before Donald Trump was indicted in the classified documents case. According to an exclusive report from the New York Post, quote, Jay Bratt, who joined the Special Counsel team in November 2022, shortly after it was formed, took a meeting in the White House on March 31, 2023, with Caroline Saba, Deputy Chief of Staff for the White House Counsel Office. White House visitor logs show this. 9 weeks later, Trump was indicted by Smith's office. Spokesman for the special counsel said Bratt was at the White House for a, quote, case-related interview, but declined to comment further. Tudor, in light of this revelation, do you have any doubt that the cases against Trump are politically motivated and it's all part of a coordinated effort by the Biden administration to take down their number one political opponent?
Joe Biden, again on camera several times, saying that he's going to make sure that Donald Trump cannot run again. This gentleman not only met after he was appointed to the special counsel's team, he actually met with White House counsel twice before. So was he meeting with them and then appointed to the team because he knew what the White House wanted them to do? This is all very suspicious. And to your earlier point, Todd, when are Democrats going to say, OK, busted, we can no longer support this man? He is corrupt in every possible way.
Ain't that the truth? Dixon is just one of many Republicans and, frankly, everyday Americans who believe that the attacks against Trump are politically motivated. So what happens if Jordan's request is ignored? Or worse, what if the administration tries to stonewall, divert, or even evade these fundamental questions? Well, let's not forget the power that the Judiciary Committee holds. Subpoenas could be issued, hearings could be conducted, and I assure you, in that scenario, it won't just be Jim Jordan asking these questions. Remember, folks, the special counsel's office is supposed to be an independent entity. Its purpose is to rise above partisan politics and focus solely on the pursuit of justice. If it's true that there's an improper relationship with the Biden White House, that's not just a small hiccup. It's a constitutional earthquake that shakes the very foundations of our republic. Let's not forget the ticking clock here. Jim Jordan has set a deadline for Zients and Garland, September 12th, 2023. That's right, there's no room for a delay or obfuscation. The time for answers is now. So where does this leave us? At a crossroads, my friends. One path leads to answers, accountability, and perhaps a return to the principles that made this nation great. The other path leads down a dark tunnel, where justice is just a word and power trumps integrity. Jim Jordan, by demanding answers, is standing up for every American who believes in the rule of law and the sanctity of justice. And for that, He deserves not just our attention, but our respect. He's doing the job we elected him to do, ask tough questions and demand honest answers. And for that, America, we should all be thankful. So why does this matter to you, to me, and every American out there? Because if Jim Jordan's suspicions are confirmed, this could be one of the most significant breaches of ethical conduct by a sitting administration. It's not just about partisan politics. It's about the heart and soul of our republic. When institutions that are supposed to be independent start cozying up to those in power, we have to question the very fabric of our nation. If there's a coordinated effort to target political opponents, then we're not living in a republic. We're living in a banana republic. And it's time to pay attention, America. If the Biden administration has something to hide, Jim Jordan is the man to drag it into the light. This is about truth, justice, and the American way. And folks, you better believe it's a fight worth fighting. In a passionate moment, a Gold Star father has strongly criticized President Biden. Angie, what are the details?
The voice of a Gold Star father has echoed across our great nation, holding President Joe Biden's feet to the fire. "Disgrace to this nation," he exclaimed, accusing Biden of turning his back on the brave Marines lost in Afghanistan. The pain was palpable as he described receiving his son's body, only to watch the president seemingly more interested in checking his watch than honoring the fallen. But that wasn't all. Biden's Afghanistan exit, termed intentional negligence, has left not just chaos, but invaluable military assets ripe for the taking. The father's bottom line? Biden may just have more American blood on his hands than any other president. America, it's time to listen, reflect, and demand better. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Prosecutor Fani Willis is taking a high-stakes gamble on a fast-paced Trump trial. Gary, tell us more.
And now, a story so explosive, so jaw-dropping, it will have you questioning the integrity of the American justice system. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is in a mad rush to expedite the trial of 19 defendants, including President Donald Trump. The date? October 23rd, 2023. Now why, you might ask? Is she hell-bent on that particular date? I'll tell you why. Because it's right before the next presidential election. Coincidence? I think not. This is not just another trial. It's a politically calculated spectacle aimed at influencing your vote. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss our deep dive into this audacious gambit. Make sure you stick around for the final thought. It's one you don't want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the labyrinth of power plays and political maneuvering that's unfolding in Fulton County, Georgia. You will not believe the audacity of District Attorney Fani Willis. She's rushing to expedite a racketeering case against not just any American citizen, but a former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And she wants to put 18 other defendants in the hot seat right alongside him. The date she has in mind for this express trial is October 23rd, 2023. Now, take a moment, let that sink in right before the presidential election of 2024. Talk about a politically calculated move to rock the boat just as voters are forming their judgments. She's not just bending the justice system to her whim, she's twisting it into a pretzel. Watch.
Breaking news just coming into the newsroom. We have a new court filing that shows DA Fani Willis is trying to push the court date in the election interference case by nearly 5 months. So she's now asking for an October 23rd trial date instead of that March trial date she initially threw out. That would mean the trial could take place this year. This is not a set date. It still has to be approved, and attorneys for the defendants can push back against this. We'll keep you updated as we do learn more.
So let's add some more context to this hurried effort. Willis sprung into action just after Kenneth Chesebro, one of the co-defendants, demanded a speedy trial for himself. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee accommodated him by setting his trial at the end of October. Willis, not one to let an opportunity slide, is now capitalizing on that, claiming that if one defendant can get a quick trial, why not try all 19 together? It's like watching a stage play where the script is rewritten to fit the director's ulterior motives. And let's not forget Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to President Trump. They dragged him into a courtroom for a 5-hour grilling like he was a suspect in some high-stakes crime drama. Except this isn't television. It's real life, where political futures and reputations are on the line. The man argues he was merely doing his job, yet they're keen on painting him as a villain in a farcical courtroom drama. And speaking of being in a hurry, I'll tell you about a situation that's a blatant assault on natural process. Just as Fani Willis is assaulting our legal norms to fast-track an indictment, time marches on, causing muscle loss as you age. I can't help but recommend a product that fights back against this natural deterioration. With ingredients like MyHMB, creatine, betaine, and vitamin D3, this product just isn't a supplement, it's a statement against letting things fall apart. Demand better at gainwithgary.com and get a 41% discount plus extras. Take control, much like we should be taking control of this runaway legal freight train. Now, Willis seems determined to play by her own rule book. She argues that attempts to sever trials are improper at this juncture. Why? Because it disrupts her plan to overshadow the electoral process. You see, Sidney Powell and 5 other defendants are battling to move their cases from the state to a federal court. They probably sense a political landmine waiting to go off, and can you blame them? This isn't a justice system operating at peak efficiency. It's a justice system manipulated to serve the interests of those who want to rig the game. And if we look at the big picture, it's a scandalous manipulation of power. It's a circus show designed to sideline Trump and sway public opinion before people even get a chance to vote. And for what? Political points? 15 minutes of fame? Willis also wants to establish a deadline for any defendant seeking to sever from this gargantuan case, a move that's as calculated as it is opportunistic. It shows a level of premeditation, a desire to limit the options of the defense, and seize control of the narratives just in time for the evening news and right before you cast your ballot. And in this macabre play, Mark Meadows finds himself stuck between a proverbial rock and a hard place. Georgia's prosecutors are coming at him with both barrels, claiming that if Meadows was doing his job, then he's open to Hatch Act violations. It's a catch-22 designed to corner him, yet another pawn sacrificed in this merciless game of political chess. Willis' hasty push for this legal circus is not just a slap in the face of the defendants, but a slap in the face to every American voter. It undermines the principle of a fair and impartial judiciary, turning the justice system into a weaponized tool for political gain. Now let's bring this all home, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a story about 19 defendants or even a former president. It's a story about the soul of America, a story that affects each and every one of us who believe in justice, fair play, and the sanctity of the electoral process. When a district attorney like Fani Willis manipulates the timeline of a trial involving multiple defendants and schedules it strategically right before an election, it goes beyond the realm of legal strategy. It crosses the line into political machination. It's a corrupt exploitation of the justice system to serve partisan interests. This is not the America that we know and love, and it's not the America we should pass on to our children. Keep your eyes open, America. Our republic is at stake. Georgia Governor Kemp, he's just dropped a bombshell that's rocking the nation. Angie, what are the shocking details?
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp finally spills the beans, admitting that the state's voting machines are ripe for hacking. That's right. After a group of persistent Georgia voters from GeorgiansForTruth.org cornered him at a GOP event, he had to come clean. These folks have been tirelessly warning us about the shaky foundation of Georgia's elections, and now it's out there, straight from the horse's mouth. What's the excuse? Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger are hiding behind state laws, refusing to switch to paper ballots. The message is loud and clear. The establishment cares more about saving face than ensuing fair elections. Well, the jig is up. It's time for Kemp and Raffensperger to put their games aside and start listening to the people they're supposed to represent. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. New developments could jeopardize Fani Willis's indictment against Trump. Gary, what are the details?
Welcome back, America. Hold on to your seats, because what we have tonight is news that could send shockwaves through the political theater. Imagine being a prosecutor who goes on a witch hunt against Donald Trump only to find out your office could be defunded, taking the wind right out of your sails. The Georgia state senator is making waves by fighting to halt the farce that is Fani Willis' indictment of Trump. But will he succeed? The answer might surprise you, or maybe it won't if you've been paying attention. Now, you don't want to miss our final thought tonight because it's nothing short of explosive. And if you're just joining us, sit tight because we've got a juicy story, one that is just as juicy as it is shocking. Georgia State Senator Fulton Moore, he's lighting a fire under the political elites, one that could become a bonfire, incinerating the sham indictment that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has aimed at former President Donald Trump. And let me tell you, the heat is rising. Watch.
Hello, everyone. It's Senator Fulton Moore coming to you from the Fulton County Jail. Today, Donald Trump, who have been taken political prisoner, are going to be booked in this jail. The 200,000 people that I represent who sweat hard every day for their tax dollars, they don't want their tax dollars funding this corrupt district attorney, Fani Willis. We as a legislature, me as a senator, we have a job to do. We have a constitutional duty to provide oversight against executive and judicial officers. And that's why I'm demanding that we call a special session today. Defund Fani Willis of any Georgia tax money and start the investigation into her. Contact your state representative, contact your state senator, demand a special session. We've got work to do. We've got a country to save.
Don't we really? You see, Fani Willis, she's not just some small-town prosecutor. Oh, no, she's drawing funds from the hard-working taxpayers all over the Peach State. That's right. Moore also broke this down during a chat with Newsmax, and he emphasized how Georgians are inadvertently funding a politically motivated vendetta. Unbelievable, isn't it? But hang on, it gets even juicier. Just as Fulton Moore is cautioning about a DA's office run amok, the world around us is equally unpredictable. And that's why you need to be ready, folks. My Patriot Supply is offering a stunning 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food kit. It's a safeguard, much like what Moore is trying to do for Georgia and ultimately for America. Visit preparewithgary.com right now. Take control of your own destiny before someone else tries to control it for you. Now, you'd think that with a Republican majority in the Senate, Moore would have more backup. Nope. Out of 32 Republican colleagues, only one has shown guts to support him. Imagine that. Just one. Moore's disappointment couldn't be more evident. He compared his predicament to an eagle trying to soar but stuck flying with a bunch of buzzards. And that, ladies and gentlemen, paints a picture of what's happening to the conservative fight in Georgia. Talk about a fall from grace. But Moore isn't taking this lying down, no. In a bold move, he penned a letter to Governor Brian Kemp. You remember Kemp, the governor who's been, let's just say, a bit of a disappointment for conservatives lately? Moore's letter spells it out clearly. It's time for an emergency session to scrutinize Fani Willis' actions that have stretched the very definition of justice. 2 ways exist for initiating this special session. The governor could call for it, or 3/5 of the legislative chamber could demand it. And you can bet your last dollar that Moore is rallying support for the latter option. This is a man who doesn't wait for others to lead. He takes the reins himself. America is under attack. That's what he declared. Yes, he's standing up to say what many of us have been feeling, but few in the political arena dare to utter. Radical left prosecutors, he says, are weaponizing their elected offices. And let's not forget Cliff Maloney, who oversees America First Georgia campaigns, echoing more sentiments. Quote, finally a leader who's stepping up and fighting back. And why is all this so crucial right now? Because even mainstream media outlets like CNN are starting to see the writing on the wall, if you could believe it. Fani Willis might be ambitious, aiming trial against Trump for March or even in October. But even CNN legal analyst Ellie Hong says it's a pipe dream. Let's not underestimate the importance of timing. Willis aimed for March, and now she's moving it up, even into October, at the height of primary season. But the courts are backlogged. Jury selections are grinding slower than ever, and experts are saying the chances of starting by March are virtually nil. And of course, she's speeding up the process. So what have we here, folks? Is an opportunistic district attorney meeting her match in a state senator who's tired of business as usual? Fani Willis wanted to fast-track her vendetta, ignoring the details, throwing caution to the wind. But she forgot something important. This is America, and you can't just bypass justice because you dislike someone's politics. Moore's even suggested, sadly, so many others have, that even a civil war could break out if Trump case does eventually go to trial. Watch.
My goodness, how many people in my district questioned that election? I mean, and now that we've got 19 people who are facing the rest of their life in prison because they spoke out against an election. I mean, you know, I told one senator, I said, listen, I said, we've got to put our heads together and figure this out. We need to be taking action right now, because if we don't, our constituencies are going to be fighting it in the streets. Do you want a civil war? I don't want a civil war. I don't want to have to draw my rifle. I want to make this problem go away with my legislative means of doing so. And the first step to getting that done is defunding Fani Willis of any Georgia tax dollars. And hopefully Representative Jordan and Representative Biggs will follow suit in Congress and strip her of her federal dollars too, because she is not upholding her oath to the Constitution.
Moore represents the quintessential American response to this travesty, a fight back against the weaponization of our judicial system for political ends, a battle against rogue prosecutors who think they can bend justice to their whims and wishes. Colton Moore is trying to hold the line, saying enough is enough. He's asking for scrutiny, accountability, and most of all, fairness. Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening in Georgia right now is emblematic of a larger issue we're seeing across this great nation. When the justice system becomes a weapon for political vendettas, we all lose. We lose faith in our institutions, we lose trust in the rule of law, and we lose the very fabric that keeps this republic together. And that's why Senator Moore's battle is not just his alone. It's a battle for all of us. As we wrap up tonight's special report, let's focus on why this matters to you, the American people. We are at a dangerous crossroads, where justice is no longer blind, but has its eye firmly fixed on political agendas. The actions of Colton Moore, well, could be a significant turning point, not just in the case against Donald Trump, but in how justice is served and funded in this country. We can either sit back and allow the unchecked power of rogue prosecutors to erode our democracy, erode our republic, or we can take a stand just like Moore. When the history books are written, do we want to be remembered as the generation that sat idly by while our institutions were manipulated? I think not. This is why you, me, and every patriot must keep our eyes on Georgia. The battle for the soul of justice is upon us. Stay vigilant, America. Staten Islanders, they're rallying against a secretive migrant shelter. Angie, what's the community's response?
400 New Yorkers are making their voices heard, taking to the streets of Staten Island to protest a secret migrant shelter established in a closed school. The message couldn't be clearer. A big banner reading "No way" summed it up. Locals are livid at the Biden administration's handling of the situation, calling it a total mess. Let's be real, Staten Island is no stranger to immigration. It's the most Italian-American congressional district in the nation. But folks here say there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and this, they say, is wrong. New York's governor and mayor asked for more resources, but what did the Biden administration say? Improved data collection? As if that could solve anything. The Biden administration's weak response is leaving communities like Staten Island feeling the hurt. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. That's all the news I have for this edition of N3 Prime Time. Now back to Gary with your comments from the comment section.
Welcome to the comment section here on N3 Prime Time. You're about to hear the unfiltered pulse of America with commentary that cuts to the core of what matters most in our nation today. Tonight's topic is President Trump's midnight decree, an earth-shaking call to drain the swamp in Washington. Your comments have been rolling in, and let me tell you, America, you are not holding back. First up, we have Space Ghost, who says Republicans better start doing what's right for the nation and the people. This is the most corrupt thing to ever sit in the White House. My friend, If we had more patriots like you, we'd be in a better place. This is the cry of millions. Republicans, wake up. This isn't a game. It's the future of our nation. We can't afford to have politicians waffle while corruption festers in the White House. Now let's take a look at Cindy Eastwood. She chimes in saying, "We agree with President Trump 100%. It's time the swamp is cleaned up." Oh, Cindy, you've hit the nail on the head. Americans are hungry for integrity, for politicians who serve the people, not themselves or their cronies. Drain the swamp indeed. It's been long overdue. And Lena Lyles says, well, and has no patience for treachery, says any Republican or Democrats that don't vote for impeachment need to be removed from Congress immediately. Amen, Lena. Anyone who can't uphold their constitutional duty has no business in the halls of Congress, period. And then we have Nancy. She's tired of all the talk. She says, we want action, not words. Impeach Biden, Harris, and the whole damn administration. Nancy, I couldn't have said it better. We are a nation of action. No more rhetoric. No more empty promises. If Congress won't do its job, then maybe it's time for new representatives who will. And lastly, we have Rebecca declaring, preach it, President Trump. I'm afraid all the GOPs in the House and Senate are spineless rhinos. Rebecca, you're preaching to the choir. If our so-called representatives don't have the courage to stand up to corruption, then they're not representatives at all. They're simply puppets with someone else pulling the strings. America, these comments aren't just words on a screen. They're the voice of a fed-up nation. It's time we make Washington listen, whether they want to or not. So thank you for joining me in the comment section tonight. But don't go away just yet. Coming up next, Looking at You, where we shine a spotlight on someone who truly deserves our attention, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. Tonight we've got a special edition of our segment Looking at You, where we focus on voices that refuse to be muffled by the cacophony of the mainstream media. Tonight, that voice belongs to John Voight, a man of Hollywood, but not consumed by its hypnotic illusion of grandeur. This is an individual who's seen the nation evolve, devolve, and everything in between. He's an Academy Award winner, a father, a patriot, but most importantly for tonight's discussion, a clear-eyed observer of America's ever-shifting landscape. Watch.
This is now a cruel world. It's of intention. He shall be charged for what? For being straightforward? For allowing all to understand the meaning of America, land of the free? Is this a medieval time, a time when being wrongly condemned is to be expected? My fellow Americans, we must not allow our nation to crawl into a hole. We must not allow evil to overtake us all. Let us show who's boss. My friends of all color, race, spirituality of all religions, let's use our power, the power we came to earth for good, for love, for peace, for truth. It's the God-given power, the power of the Almighty. And let us all pray that Donald Trump rises from this evil act upon him and makes a comeback stronger than ever. They may try to knock down and tear down this man, but one thing is for sure, President Donald Trump will show the American people the truth. My fellow Americans, barbaric actions against Trump will only prove that the evil ones are afraid of the truth being exposed, and the greed and deceit will only show that the Democrat fools are guilty of lies, tricks, and corrupt abuse toward the only president who has the best interest of the American people in this country, the United States of America. He who resides with evil will be brought to his knees for redemption, and God shall show all the truth, that President Trump was the only man that was beaten down by lies, and now, my friends, he will prove to all that liberty will show itself once again with the hands, the knowledge, the love, the sweat and tears of each and every man and woman who is proud to be an American. We will prevail. We will not fail. For now, let us come together and allow the truth to finally open up the gates for this nation's glory. Our hope, our future, our children, our love for one another, and our greatest choices, our free will, our home, the land of the free, God bless America, and let's bring President Trump back to help once again the tree of life, the Statue of Liberty, God's glory. Much love to you.
Love that guy. Now, did you catch that? In a world rapidly descending into chaos, here's a man who hasn't lost sight of what this country is supposed to be about. Liberty, freedom, and yes, the pursuit of truth. Concept many of our esteemed leaders seem to have forgotten. Voight starts by decrying the vilification of being straightforward. In his words, are we living in a medieval time? You have to wonder. When the mere act of speaking truth becomes an offense, we've reached a disturbing milestone, ladies and gentlemen. He calls America the land of the free. It's a term that we've all heard and perhaps taken for granted. But have we considered what it really means in these trying times? If speaking truth to power leaves you prosecuted, can we still call this the land of the free? Voight encouraged us to channel our God-given power for good, love, peace, and truth. These aren't just lofty ideals. They're the bedrock of a free society. But where do these principles stand in today's America, where the cancel culture rampage seeks to obliterate any semblance of free thought? And let's talk about Donald Trump, whom Voight fervently believes has been unjustly torn down. Whether you love or loathe Trump, Voight's point is clear. This man, he's been beaten down by a culture and a system that fears truth. And here's the kicker. Voight says that we will prevail. Despite the darkness, despite the censorship and the vilification of what's true and just, he believes we will overcome. In closing, John Voight gives us all a call to action. Let's come together, let's search for truth, and let's bring back the America we love and respect. It's a message we'd all do well to heed. That's it for tonight's Looking at You segment. Until next time, America, keep your eyes open and never be afraid to speak the truth. Well, we've covered a lot of ground tonight, haven't we? From Senator Lindsey Graham's warnings about legal double standards to Newsmax host Greg Kelly's tantalizing claim of a Biden exposing tape. There's no denying the American people are caught in a torrent of political skirmishes. And what's at the core of it all? A struggle for truth and accountability, the very things that keep the wheels of our republic turning smoothly. And just like you wouldn't let your neighbor dictate how you should raise your kids or spend your hard-earned money, we can't let a select few control the narrative and the justice system in a way that only serves their interests. Take Congressman Byron Donalds, for example. He's voicing the grievances we all feel. The sticker shock at the gas station, the empty shelves in the baby formula aisle. We're all tightening our belts, while some are more concerned with tightening their own grip on power. It's not a matter of left or right. It's about right and wrong. The Gold Star Father's anguished cry wasn't just his, it was America's. It was a wake-up call, reminding us that behind every policy decision are real lives and real sacrifices. We should listen to that cry. And when we go to bed tonight, ask ourselves, what kind of country do we want to wake up in tomorrow? We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to be vigilant, to demand better, and to hold our leaders accountable. Because if we don't, we're not just failing ourselves, we're failing the very essence of America. So that wraps up tonight's in-depth dive into the stories shaping America. A big thank you to Angie for her sharp and insightful news briefs. You make us all a bit wiser, Ange. And to everyone participating in our live chat and engaging with us on Twitter or X, your voices are the lifeblood of this show. And together, we're not just sharing information, we're building a community of informed citizens ready to take action. And speaking of safeguarding your future, special thanks to our sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. In a world as unpredictable as Congressman Donald's litany of concerns or as volatile as Rachel Maddow's rhetoric, gold remains a bedrock of stability. Since the U.S. dollar detached from gold back in the 70s, yes, 85% of its value lost. But just like the integrity we seek in our leaders, gold has consistently held its own. Secure your financial footing with Noble Gold Investments. Receive a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com or call 877-646-5347. The gold company that I trust. And even if you're not investing, give them a call. Tell them thank you for sponsoring this program. Thank you for making it possible for us to continue spreading the truth in a world that needs it so desperately. Remember this. You're not just viewers. You're the catalyst for change, the key to making America great again. So if you enjoyed tonight's show, spread the word, share the link. I'm Gary Franchi, and remember, I am not here to make you a follower. I'm here to help you become a leader among the people. Good night, and God bless.